Hey, this is Will Knight, and we're back with another podcast. And today we are talking about Medicare and health insurance. And today my guest is
Mike Marion,
and Mike is with
Integrated Financial Concepts in Park Ridge, Illinois.
All right. So, Mike, tell me about Medicare and health insurance.
Well, that's two different worlds. The people who are on health insurance under 65 or corporate plans if they're still working, and then once they reach 65 or finally stop working, then we transition into Medicare.
Okay. What first led you to focus on Medicare and health insurance, such as an important part of the retirement planning?
Well, part of it was in the business years ago, looking at what are the critical needs for protecting your financial future, and usually it's making sure you have proper health insurance, disability insurance, life, and then down the road Medicare and long-term care. So in that order, as progression as you age, but most people look at it and don't realize the risks that you have to your financial future if you don't have proper coverage.
From your experience, what's the most common misconception that people have with Medicare?
Well, the biggest misconception with the Medicare is that it's free. Nothing's free.
True. And you're right though, because a lot of people do think that it's free.
Or they think nursing homes are covered by Medicare. And it's not. So those are the biggest misconceptions. Most of the seniors in long-term care, long-term situations in nursing homes, things like that, they run out of money and go on Medicaid. But Medicare covers very little for those seniors.
And so I'm just going to go off topic right now.
Mm-hmm.
So let's just say someone needs to put their loved one in a nursing home,
Mm-hmm.
and they only have Medicare Part A and B.
Okay.
They have to supplement that, correct, from the nursing home standpoint?
Well, it depends on what they're in the nursing home for. If somebody had a stroke or an accident or something like that and coming out of the hospital after 3 days, going into rehab and things like that, that's a short-term stay. Medicare picks up the first 20 days, and then you've got so many days up, usually 100 days, but it's more for recovery in rehab and things like that when you're in the facility. But if you go in for a long, let's say a lot of us are experiencing parents and stuff like that, more dementia, things like that, where you go into assisted living or nursing home or memory care, those things are really, you're paying it out of pocket because Medicare stops after so many days of, when you first get in there. So that's really an issue for people to think about because that's the biggest misconception. The government picks up the bill initially. You initially pay yourself, self-pay, or have a long-term care policy, and then you run through your money, and that's when you get to the level where you qualify for Medicaid, and that's where the government kicks in.
Oh, okay. So going back on topic,
Yeah.
You meet with different people at different stages, still working, recently retired, or already past the 65. How does Medicare planning differ to each group?
Well, when you're younger, the biggest question, when you're under 65, the only people that qualify for Medicare are those who are on disability, SSDI, things like that qualify for Medicare disability. Once they're on disability, 2 years later, they're offered Medicare. So other than that, everybody at 65 or older is really where the Medicare population is. But if you're younger, it's really keeping insurance in place, whether you buy it yourself through the Affordable Care or the exchanges or Get Covered Illinois this year that they created, or you're working for an employer part-time or full-time and get benefits. You want to make sure you have benefits till you're 63 and a half because COBRA is the biggest thing that I tell people under 65. Don't throw that COBRA letter away when you leave because you need to really look at that, even though the cost is you'll get a heart attack on the cost.
Oh, yeah.
You want to make sure that you at least keep that going if you find other sources of insurance. And 63 and a half is really the point that you need to stay working till to be able to go 18 months on COBRA to bridge you over to Medicare.
Yeah, I remember, just an off-topic story,
Yeah.
I remember my sister had an aneurysm and she had great insurance.
Mm-hmm.
And, during that long-term process, she had to get COBRA.
Mm-hmm.
And, she was an accountant.
Right.
And I'm not.
Right.
She pays her bills on
Yes.
time.
She balances her checkbook.
You're right. I don't have a checkbook.
Right.
I just write the checks
Right.
out and that's
Yep.
it. Hopefully they don't bounce.
Yes.
But she was telling me, make sure that I paid that check, that Cobra check, on time.
Right.
I cannot be late.
Right. Yeah, it's the Cobra. Most people call me to get quotes for the Blue Cross plans, individual Blue Cross plans. Well, things change after Obamacare started in 2010. Things used to be reasonable. We could go to any doctor we wanted. That's all changed. So things have changed, and the cost has gone up quite a bit over the years, especially with the hospitals taking over a lot of the doctors' practice and things like that. So when you look at the Cobra, you may think it's expensive because you're not used to paying that full premium. Your corporation's been paying that premium, the majority of that premium for you. So when you get that Cobra letter, by law, they have to send it out within 15 months, not 15 months, 15 days, and then you get like 60 days to act on that letter. But you get up to 18 months if it's just you're leaving a corporation. If your spouse is turning 65, you actually get an extension up to 3 years, or if a spouse dies, you get 2 or 3 years to be able to stay on that group plan. Now, Illinois does have a special rule. I was on it myself. I was on Cobra for 6 years from the old company, because Illinois has a special rule that it trumps Cobra for spouses. So anybody who's 55 or older who gets divorced later in life, or the other spouse who's working for the corporation leaves, retires at 55 or later, state of Illinois spousal continuation allows you to stay on that old company plan that your spouse worked for until you turn 65.
Really?
Which is only unique to Illinois, and most companies don't know it. When I tell them, Ford Motor Company on the South Side, never heard of it when I sent somebody over there. So divorcees or somebody whose spouse retires and their younger spouse, you can stay on, as long as you're 55 or older, you can stay on. So if the spouse retires at 60 from corporation, the younger spouse can stay on, if they're 55 or older, can stay on the corporation Cobra until they reach 65, as long as it's a normal self-funded plan. Normal insured plan from the insurance company. If it's self-funded, like City of Chicago or something like that, they don't have to follow these rules. But just a regular health insurance plan through Blue Cross, United Healthcare, Aetna, if they're a regular plan, you have this special spousal provision that trumps the Cobra continuation of the federal government. The state of Illinois has a better Cobra for spouses and divorced spouses.
Okay. What are some of the biggest enrollment mistakes that some people make doing the cost, of how costly it could be?
Well, the biggest mistakes most people make, whether it's through the through the individual plans on their own when they're under 65, or when they're looking at the plans out there for Medicare supplements to supplement Medicare, because Medicare at 65, Medicare is the primary insurance for everybody. Everybody's in Part A and Part B if they sign up the correct way. And then the other plans that wrap around that, whether it be a regular, like I sell mostly traditional Blue Cross in United Healthcare and things like that, traditional supplements, and then there's Advantage plans also. But the biggest mistake is going for the cheapest plan. Whether it's on the exchange, you're going on the cheapest plan, that's going to be a small HMO. Your doctor may not be in that. Same thing with Advantage plans, you got to make sure your doctor and hospital accept it. Traditional Medicare supplements, if a doctor or hospital takes Medicare, that supplement works at all companies. Plan G is the same everywhere. So what most people look is they look at price, and they don't look at underneath the hood at the benefits of the plan they're buying and what the cost is if they ever use it. If you stay healthy and never need anything, then you can go for the zero plan you see on TV. But you got to watch out what happens if I need to go get health care. What's my out-of-pocket cost? What's my deductible? What are the copays? Does my doctor even take it? Well, if your doctor doesn't take it, it's like having no health insurance.
What's interesting is I worked as a paramedic and also worked in hospitals. Mm-hmm. And I always saw people with Medicare cards. Mm-hmm. And it was like Part A, Part B, C, D, E, mm-hmm. F. Mm-hmm. And I always wonder, how many alphabets does Medicare actually have? Mm-hmm. And what's the cost of that? I know this is not part of our conversation, but...
Well, you just got to remember the basic Medicare is Part A, Part B. A is hospital, B is everything else, okay. Doctor fees and x-rays outside. So A covers the hospital charges, B covers the doctor's fees and all the outpatient things that you get. D is for drugs. Ah. C was stuck in there recently, that's new. Part C is the Advantage plans, which are fairly new. So A, B, C, D are the basics of getting enrolled in Medicare. Okay. Which plan you're on. D is for the drugs, C is for I call the combo plan, which are the Advantage plans, with most of them wrap in the medical, A and B, plus the drugs, plus the vision, health clubs, things like that. That's just called a combo plan. The other letters that you see, the G, N, F, those are the most popular supplement plans out there. F is no longer available to anybody turns 65, but if you had it before, you can keep it. So that covers everything after Medicare pays. And the G plan, which is most popular today, you got a deductible for the doctor, deductible or Part B, deductible of $283. Then Medicare and Blue Cross or United Healthcare Plan G pick up everything.
So it's just like, I'm using this term lightly. So it's just like if you have Blue Cross Blue Shield, you pay a deductible, and once you meet that deductible, then they pick up everything else.
Right.
So that's G.
That's G. The good plan, I call it the good plan now. Is good plan now. Most people, 90% of people take G. This year it's $283. The deductible goes up a little bit every year. So does the premium for plans and Medicare Part B. And then N is just similar to G, but you pay copays when you go into the doctor or the emergency room. It's $50, things like that. So you pay copays and it lowers the price down, but it's very similar to G also, just a little bit more out of pocket. If you're going to the doctor a lot, then you take G. If you're pretty healthy, you can go N and save some money.
Because I believe this conversation is very important for people who are mother, fathers, or themselves are going into retirement as well. What do you believe that Medicare decisions should be part of, or should I say this, should the Medicare decision be part of your financial plan?
Well, I try to encourage people, just think about when you turn in 60, because 60 gives you time to make some moves, because 65, you've got a couple things going on. When you're getting into the mid 60s, we have the discussion with clients at 60 about Social Security strategies. When do we claim Social Security? And Medicare is coming at 65. So if there's things that we want to do ahead of time to adjust our income, because Medicare Part B is not free. It's got a standard premium, and then if you make more money selling a house, inheriting money, or if you take money out of your IRAs or 401ks the wrong way, that's income, and you're going to get taxed at a special tax called IRMA. Your adjusted gross gets too big. There's two sisters that you don't want to be hanging with, and that's Maggie, modified adjusted gross income, and IRMA, which is looks at your income and charges you more premium for Part B, all the way up to, I was thinking for a single person, if you had a $500,000 a year, you're paying $800 a month for your Medicare Part D and Part B instead of just paying $202.90.
Really?
And that's per month per person. So if it's with a couple, you're going to pay for both of you if you're both on Medicare. So you got to plan ahead of time how you structure things as to how your income's going to look in retirement, or when you're going to claim Social Security, because you can claim as early as 62 for Social Security and take a haircut, or you wait till 67, because normal retirement age now is 67 for most people, and you can delay that till 70 if you want to grow that check, but your spousal benefits, they stop growing at 67.
Okay.
So we all kinds of strategies in terms of when we pull the levers on getting Social Security. And I encourage everybody on the podcast, go to socialsecurity.gov and set up your own account with the password and username, because the socialsecurity.gov controls everything. Your Social Security application and your Medicare application. But you can go to socialsecurity.gov today and do the projections. Hey, how much am I going to have in Social Security benefits, assuming I take it at 65, 67, 70. And it's the same website that you're going to need to sign up for Medicare in the future.
Oh,
so it's all online now. You don't want to go to the offices anymore. After COVID, pretty much metro areas, in the offices, they'll give you a phone call. But you can go right online and do everything yourself and get it done quickly and painlessly if you set up your own account today.
I'm sorry.
Yeah.
And I know this confuses a lot of people when you say, "Oh my God, I need to go on Medicare," and I just got the notice,
right?
Or you're 60 or 65, or if you have health problems like organ transplants or something like that, and it's just like all of a sudden it's just like, "Oh my God, I'm like a deer in the headlights."
Yep.
Where do I start?
Right. Well, the people who are on disability, SSDI, or like you said, renal failure, kidney problems, stuff like that, they get to enroll in Medicare early. So in general, it's 65. So the big question is, are you still working? If you're not working, then your open enrollment period is 3 months before the month of your birth, and then 3 months after your birth month. So a total of 7 months is your initial enrollment period. You won't you won't forget about it because you will get hounded with phone calls and direct mail from everybody in the world. And you'll always see in October and November open enrollment for each year for people changing their plans as a reminder. But you will get so many calls and so much mail about, hey, you're going to turn 65. That's a reminder that's coming. And if you're not working, you need to go back to socialsecurity.gov, your personal account, and then click through and just apply only for Medicare.
Okay.
And then do it right online, and then you'll get your card. It takes about a month. Then once you get your card, you can sign up for one of the plans that you want to have to supplement to wrap around your Medicare coverage. Now, if you're still working, different story. If you're still working and you're with a large company, it has to be over 20 people, because if you're working for a small business, you got to sign up for Part A and Part B. If you're working for a large corporation and you continue to work, your group plan at work is still primary.
Okay.
So you can sign up for A if you want to, because A normally is free. There's no premium because you put in the 40 quarters and you paid for A. B is to this year $202.90. Well, if you're on a qualified group plan of a large company, you can waive Part B until you retire. And then when you retire, then sign up for Medicare A and B or B. Because if you sign up for A, you cannot do a health savings account. If you're doing a health savings account, any part of Medicare, if you're half pregnant, you can't do a health savings account. So if you want us to keep doing a health savings account, do not enroll in A.
Okay.
So keep that up. Now, once you go off the plan, COBRA continuation does not qualify as a reason for extending the enrollment in Part B, because Part B has penalties. If you don't join, it's 10% every year you're late for life. And then Part D is the drugs. It's 12% a year for the same time.
You know what's interesting? You mentioned this, and it immediately triggered a friend of mine. Still works, and I think he's over 65. And it was funny because he had to get his job to write him a letter so he could submit it to the Social Security,
right, to validate.
so he doesn't get fined.
Right, right. Yeah, well, they'll ask you, and that's why I tell people, when you go off your company plan, keep that letter of credible coverage. Shows you how many years you were on the old group plan, because they're going to come back, especially if you're past 65, the drug companies and Medicare are going to ask you to prove that you had credible coverage for all those years. Otherwise, you got penalties. Now, there's a couple exceptions to those large corporations, like City of Chicago, people that I work with. City of Chicago, self-funded, they require you, even while you're working for the city, to enroll in Medicare both parts, A and B. Colleges, same thing. So check with your HR department. Always check. Hey, I'm turning 65, I'm on this group plan, is there any other requirement that I sign up for Medicare, or am I good on staying on the health plan as my primary insurance if it's a large corporation? There's a few exceptions to that, and it's always good to check with the HR department.
Okay. How, that's a lot of information. This is interesting to me.
Yep.
Have you seen healthcare costs change a lot over the years?
Yes. So on average, like you saw a lot of the press in the fall about the subsidies and things like that. So, when we started the new healthcare system in 2010, Affordable Care Act, we had a lot of promises, and those haven't been delivered. All my clients with Blue Cross individual plans still have them prior to 2010, because they get to see all their doctors, all their hospitals, and the cost is about a third less than what the current prices are, because the new plans have all the preventative things and all the extra mandated benefits that the government has. So the costs on average went up 15 to 20% last year. And so it's very hard to see the cost of the premiums for people if you're working for yourself and you got to buy this health insurance on your own. Some people still qualify for subsidies under the old 2010 rule, but most of the people lost quite a few subsidies this year because the law that was passed in 2010 during COVID to give extra help expired on 12/31. So a lot of people saw big increases, but there's still the as I call it, the original Obamacare subsidies are still there, but the cost is high. The deductibles are pretty high, and the out-of-pockets are like $10,500 a person. So it's very different than where it was 10, 15 years ago in the marketplace. Everybody's accepted, but the cost is very rich. Same thing happens with some of the supplements. You know, we go through price increases also. The biggest one was last year. You know, they were 10 to 15% average cost increase on the supplement prices. So those usually are 3 to 5%, keeping up with Medicare inflation. But because of COVID, we had a big surge of expenses come through. But you know, the cost, the healthcare is significant for most people, and that's why it's you know, it's critical to look at where your job prospects are, or if you're working part-time, Starbucks, Jewel, you know, places that give you benefits for working part-time. So it's always good to look at, hey, what's plan B, and plan that out, because even people that retire, police officers retire early, you know, it's $1,200 a person for the COBRA. So
really,
if they don't go off, if they go off early before that certain age, you know, the 55 bill, it's a eye opener when they get to see the COBRA, and that's cheap compared to what's out in the marketplace.
yeah. Prescription coverage.
Mm-hmm.
It confuses a lot of people. From your experience, why is it the most critical?
Well, prescription drugs coverage, what most people don't realize, we didn't have any coverage in Medicare until 1996. George Bush #2 brought that in 1996. There was no drug coverage in Medicare before 96. So a lot of people don't realize how recent that Part D has been added to the Medicare equation. And the drug companies themselves, you know, it used to be unlimited, you know, used to be a catastrophic phase, but drug coverage is important, especially I'm on a lot of drugs and things like that, and you know, I'm diabetic, so it's just you know, it's same thing. You got to look at the cost. But the drug plans, we used to have a lot of choice. It's gotten less and less because the government now has kind of put caps on the out-of-pocket maximums. So the drug coverage itself is vital, but I'd say 70% of the people are on generics, and they can do there's 2 plans like here in Illinois. There's 2 plans that don't cost anything, and so if you're healthy, you pick that plan, or even I'm on a 0 plan. But the maximum you can pay this year in 2026 for covered drugs is $2,100 out of pocket, plus your premiums on top of that. So you got to make sure your drugs are covered. Don't choose a 0 plan because of the price. Like anything else I said on health insurance, 0 is not 0. You got to look at the total cost. So you can go to Medicare.gov. Anybody can go to Medicare.gov. You don't need an account, and type in your drugs and get an idea what the costs are going to be. And so you got to look at the total cost, not just the premium cost, but what's the total cost of deductibles and copays, and see who they'll give you all the plans and show you all the pricing and everything like that. But and the main thing is that you got to put your drugs in there, because every plan does not have the same drug. There could be 4 inhalers, and one company covers this one, and the other company covers the generic. And generic's not always the cheapest,
right?
You know, because sometimes like an Advair, it's cheaper. It plans name brand's cheaper than generic. So you got to look at that tool that's Medicare.gov and play with that and look at your drugs and make sure your drugs are covered. Now, it doesn't mean, like I was on one plan 2 years ago. Well, they don't always communicate well. Every October they send out a book and a letter saying, here's your price for next year for your drug plan, and here's the deductible, and I'll go search the website for your drug list. Well, great. So, you know, they dropped one of my drugs. I would have not known about it unless I went on the website and said, okay, now I got to go to Humana next year. So it's just they cover the drugs. So you got to just because your plan is good this year, it's like a shell game. They can drop the drug next year from their list. They can make it a different tier. So you got to check yourselves. You always self-check every fall. I tell everybody, hey, if you're on a drug plan, remember Halloween. Halloween is a scary time.
Yeah.
So is checking your drugs on that Medicare.gov website to see what the next plan is going to be for the following year. And they increase prices because the government's been squeezing these prices down, just like insulin. Squeezing things down, well, the bubble, you know, it pops out somewhere else, so you got to check.
How do income levels and retirement withdrawals affect Medicare premiums?
A lot of people get shocked by what they get a letter every January for their extra premium being added to their base premium. And so what happens is that if 2026, Medicare is looking at your 2024 tax return, because you haven't filed 25s yet. So the last filed tax return, they update it in December of 2025. They get 24s in their system, and they look at your adjusted gross. Now, this is not your taxable gross. This is not what you're paying taxes on. This is everything on the front page, all your income, dividends, even tax-free interest, stuff like that. all your distributions from your retirement plans or IRAs, with the exception of like a Roth or a health savings account, those don't go taxed. But everything income you have before you even do your deductions, that's your adjusted gross. That's what Medicare's premiums are based on. There's very few deductions on that top there before this number is put into the system to say, okay, you fall into, this year it's 109 and less for a single person, 218 and less for a couple. It's basically double the single. So 109 for single, 218 for couple. You're below that, you just pay the 202.90. There's 5 steps, 5 income steps, levels above that.
Really?
All the way to, like I said, if you're over 500,000 as a single person, you're paying almost $800 just for that red, white, and blue card.
Wow.
So you're paying $600 more. And that's like if you sold a house, sold some property, sold stock, took capital gains, things like that, distributions from an IRA. Those are all, you're paying penalty for 1 year. It'll drop back the next year if your return is adjusted. Now, if you lost a job or something like that, I appeal a lot in the beginning of the year. I appeal a lot of things because somebody had a job or a special bonus or something like that they got for that year. They retired, you got a special bonus. You can appeal this decision and get that knocked down. I appealed mine last year for 2023. I had to go back and amend my tax return,
Right.
and I got all my money back for the IRMA they took out for the first few months.
So I'm just going to use this in an example. Person sells their house. They sell their income property.
Yep.
They have all that cash in the bank. They're 60 years old.
Right.
What's your plan?
Well, it depends on what they want to do with the money. Where that's going to go. If it's going to go into, because
The bank, financial.
Well, any bank that you put it into, any place you're getting regular interest, it's your bank or savings and loan, your credit union, things like that. That's reported interest each year by the banks. So sometimes it's what's the money for? Do we put it into fixed annuities making today 5%, and that money's tax deferred until you take it out in the future? Do you invest it in the market? Do you invest it in something to let it grow, so that growth is not taxed, unless it'll have some capital gains and stuff thrown off, minimal, but that appreciation, is delayed till down the road when you want to sell that and take those profits, or if you die, it goes tax-free to your heirs because it has a stepped-up value in your house and your investments and things like that. But if you're sitting in a CD, you're getting that 1099 INT from the banks every year. You just pay tax as you go on that. So you just got to look at it. When you're looking at roughly when you're 63, you got to look at your income because that's going to hit yours when you go on Medicare at 65.
Okay.
And that's why we talk starting at 60, start doing plans for saying, hey, what's my income going to be from 63 and 64? Because they're looking back 2 years. So a lot of times we'll do Roth IRA conversions and things like that, and from 60 to 63 to get some of that money taxed and not be affecting your Medicare.
So I have another question because we're already off topic, but still on topic.
Right.
I see a lot of people moving out of the country.
Okay.
For instance, I was recently in Panama, and you look at some of these chat groups, Reddit, Facebook, everybody's saying Panama City, Panama City, Panama. This is like, I don't see the enthusiasm moving to Panama City, but other people do.
Right.
Or they move out of the country to Europe or whatever.
Right.
Do you still encourage people or the process of still having Medicare?
Well, it really depends on where you're moving to, because Medicare stops at the border.
Okay.
The G and the plan Medicare supplement plans cover like 50,000 for foreign travel, and then I have Geo Blue, which is covers you when you go to other countries, whether you're doing missionary or students
or just vacationing
for 2 or 3 weeks or whatever in Europe or South Africa or whatever, especially Mexico because they make you go to the ATMs before they treat you. So you can buy insurance, health insurance through Blue Cross for travel overseas. Now, if you're going to live overseas, then you're going to have to look at each country's system as to how you can residency requirements, things like that, whether or not you can get the card for Portugal, Spain, whatever, Italy, whatever country you're going to, or Costa Rica, like you said, or see what they have from their own government standpoint, what plans they have over there. And some people will keep their supplement in force, because they'll travel back for care. A lot of
Yeah.
people in Florida have supplements in Florida, but they get their care back here in Chicago because all their doctors are back here, and the doctors down there aren't
Right.
as good, they think,
Yeah.
as the ones back here in the Chicago area.
So I didn't know this, but Blue Cross Blue Shield have a travel insurance that you could get?
Travel policy, yeah.
Travel policy? Okay.
Yeah, travel insurance policy, and it it's medevacs you out, it's the whole shot. So,
Oh, okay.
yeah, so it's like you see stuff on when you buy buy your card, buy your ticket on the plane from Allianz and those guys, and that's a little bit similar, but not quite as benefits are better on the separate policy from
Got it.
Blue Cross to cover you worldwide.
Okay. You work with couples often and single people. How do Medicare planning differ from those spouses and different from the retiring? So you have the spouse that's not retiring, and then you have the
Okay.
person that's retiring.
Well, the big question is when you get the spouse who's turning 65, and it really depends if they're the same age or you get a difference in the ages. Because if you've got the biggest problems with a lot of people that I work with when they turn 65, their spouse is 5 years younger. So it's a really critical question: is this other younger spouse still working? Can you, like City of Chicago, the spouses can stay on COBRA for 3 years, which I really encourage. So you can stay on your usually a corporate plan that they're leaving, they can keep the spouse when they turn Medicare eligible. Usually most COBRA, even on private plans, 2 or 3 years for COBRA coverage to continue for that younger spouse. Keep in mind if the younger spouse is working and they're working at a decent job and they have big company, you can now switch on to her plan when you turn, let's say your coverage ends at 65 for your employer, whatever, wherever you're working. Well, now the younger spouse who's still working full-time or part-time but has benefits, you can now, that's a special enrollment provision mid-year to go back on their group plan and ride their group plan until they turn 65.
Okay.
It's got a cost. You got to look at the cost factor. What's the deductible on that health plan? What's the cost to add the spouse versus just enrolling in Medicare?
Okay.
Because it costs about between the 202.90 premium and a supplement and things like that. You're talking minimum $400 is the monthly cost for one person to be on Medicare Plan G and drug card and everything like that.
What questions do you best prepare clients to ask you? Or do you meet with a client, they come in, they know nothing about Medicare or health insurance. What are some of the questions, or how do you
prepare them?
Yeah.
Well, it's funny because I get a lot of clients who come to me because I've been around working with these groups for decades, but they come over to me and for the investment help and everything like that, and they said, yeah, where you distinguish yourself is you're looking at holistically at everything.
Right.
You're not just looking at the investments, you're looking at the Medicare and the health insurance. So probably the first thing when I'm talking to somebody is just giving them the breakdowns. I'll give them different pamphlets and things like that. I always give a sheet out of Social Security and Medicare, just the basics, the costs and everything, and let them read that. So I'm always emailing people brochures from Medicare or Social Security. It's all online. So you go to socialsecurity.gov or medicare.gov, you wouldn't believe the resources that are right there at your fingertips to click online and read that and get yourself educated. So educating people where the resources are to learn and educate them in terms of the process, how to search for drugs, how to compare plans, things like that. It's more of a teaching. Half the job is teaching people how to use the resources that are at your fingertips. Because going to the office now, you get misinformation city. How to claim Social Security? You wouldn't believe how many things I fix because the offices give the wrong information, especially to spouses who are widows. The widows are the hardest because they get so much things thrown at them, and then you get the information on how to claim things with Social Security. They don't give you the right information half the time. So you got to verify, check, you research yourself along with other information.
Check but verify.
Yep.
Okay. Based on everything we've covered today and in your career, what are some of the what advice would you give someone who's turning 65?
Well, the advice I would say is just start
to take the stress out of their lives.
Well, I would say anybody who's turning 60 should be your planning starting point for looking at your Social Security benefits. How healthy are you? Are you going to take your Social Security benefits early at 62 because your life expectancy is now long? Or, like my spouse took it early. I left mine until I was 67 because her benefit's smaller than mine, but it was big enough that it was more than half of mine, and I would get nothing from her benefit if she died, because the survivor benefit, mine was bigger. So,
Right.
hey, take yours early. So everybody, it's not one size fits all, but start at 60, start looking at, like I said, socialsecurity.gov, make sure your quarters are correct, make sure that's in there, because, like I found a few things wrong with the information on mine before my pension, before I pulled it, because you want to verify that they have everything, and that's going to give you a lot of tools to project out what you're going to get from Social Security, and then what Medicare is on there too. But start at 60, start thinking about it, start signing up for socialsecurity.gov and look at things and do projections, and then think about what 5 years is going to be here before you know it, and just think about if you're the same age as your spouse, it's real easy. Now keep in mind, Medicare starts the first of the month. Biggest misconception too, that my birthday is June 27th, Medicare starts that date, right? No, it's the first of the month, first of your birth month. So it's June 1st. So most people think they can wait to enroll in Medicare. They think the Medicare starts on their birthday. It does not. It starts on the first of the month. His wife was June 1st. She starts a month early. People born on the 1st start the month before, May 1st. Okay. So everybody thinks that, hey, I'm turning 65 on January, the 28th of the month.
Right.
No, you're on Medicare the 1st of the month. So your card will always say 1, 2, 1, 3, 1. There's no other date than the 1st of eligibility. But so planning at 60, just to look at your benefits in both Medicare and Social Security, and keep in mind for the women, there's disability in Medicare. Social Security has disability also, so you have a disability benefit. And keep in mind, I've learned this through my own ex-spouse after her stroke, is that your disability benefits disappear if you're not working for 5 years. Even though she had the 20 quarters for disability, 40 quarters for your retirement benefit, she was off work for more than 5 years, especially women raising kids and stuff like that. Go do something for 1 quarter. 1 quarter today is $1,800. You don't have to work a whole year. You just have to make $7,500 in 2 months, and you got all 4 quarters. So if you're off the job for more than 5 years, you lose your disability benefits with Social Security. So that's one thing I want to point out, because I'm big on disability insurance.
Yeah.
Because I brought it into the city back in '97, because you have big things: health insurance to cover you for your health, so you don't go broke on the bills; disability insurance to keep that check flowing to pay all the other bills until you're 67, Medicare, when the Social Security kicks in, and then life insurance based upon your family needs. But the really looking at the discussion with them at 60 to kind of look out 5 years, and let's start making plans and adjustments going forward, and make sure you've got enough quarters. Now you can qualify for Medicare even if you didn't work, as long as your spouse has 40 quarters. So you can go off your spouse's plan, but that spouse has to be at least 62. When you turn 65, as long as your spouse is 62 and they have the 40 quarters for Medicare and Social Security, you can use their benefit. You can use their hours.
So what's interesting is I was reading that the previous president, Joe Biden,
Yep.
he signed into law
Fairness Act.
the Fairness Act.
Yep.
Which was interesting because you have a lot of police officers, teachers, firefighters, paramedics
So we're affected. Yep.
that were affected, because it's interesting because I've always worked more than one job.
Right.
Just like everybody else in the United States.
Right.
I work more than one job. Sometimes I work 3 jobs
Yep.
or 4 jobs, depending on the time of day or if I was off, whatever. What's interesting is they were still taking out Social Security.
Right.
And I knew at the time, it was like, oh, I'm not going to get paid because I still
Gonna get whacked.
I'm going to get whacked and everything.
Yeah.
And then all of a sudden, I retire. And I see somebody says, oh, you should see how much you're going to get from Social Security.
Right.
And I forgot what it was, but it was under $500.
Right.
It's like, I worked all these part-time jobs.
Right.
I got
Yep.
all my quarters in.
Right.
Just because I work for a municipality, I don't get anything at all.
Right.
And then when he passed it, where I forgot the name of the bill, or
The Fairness Act.
The Fairness
Because you
Act.
never paid the taxes because your pension took the place of Social Security.
right, exactly. So now I looked online, and now it went up drastically. So I'm like, oh my God, this is great.
Yep.
So it's interesting how that one law affected every
Yes.
if not 80% of the people.
Yeah, well, public sector, especially around here, Chicago public school teachers and, like you said, any of the municipal workers, and I'm still finding thousands of dollars a week for people because they all got their checks fixed and they got their retro check, but they don't realize the biggest change was GPO, government pension offset. GPO was when somebody passed away, or spousal benefits, things like that, because you couldn't get spousal benefits off your
That's right.
higher wage earning spouse. You didn't get half their benefit because it disappeared because you were getting a pension.
That's right.
Or they died. Their $3,000 check disappeared because your pension, 2/3 of your pension offset that benefit. You got yours. Huge change. A lot of people don't know they have to go claim that. They don't send you the check for that.
Right.
You got to go claim
They
spousal.
only send you the check. They don't send the check for
They fix your check, yeah, but you got to claim for spousal, and you got to claim a survivor benefit. So it's huge for a lot of the widows, a lot of things like that, who never. And I had one officer whose wife died at 55, never collected. Well, he was entitled. He never worked for Social Security hours at all. He's all city. He got $25,000 retro check and $1,800 a month.
Yeah.
That he wasn't getting before. So that's the biggest change in just educating people about, hey, are you getting the best check?
Right.
And you're getting the biggest check because you got to go claim that
Yeah.
and even from exes. This is a weird thing about Social Security. If you're single, and you were married before, you might have been married twice before. Once you get to the age for Social Security, you're getting your check. Hey, wait a second. How'd your ex do? Oh, they were successful. Well, you get to claim half, and they don't even know.
Really?
They don't even have to be claiming yet, because when you're married, you have to claim
Right.
benefits for your spouse to get it. When you're divorced, 10 years one day, if you're married 10 years one day, you can go claim a spousal benefit off the successful ex. Even if they remarry, you get half their check. They croak, they die, you get their whole check. Now, if you're married twice, you get to pick.
Right.
Take half here. This one dies, you take the survivor. The other one finally dies, you get a bigger check, you get that check. So it's like you got to claim these claiming strategies are huge, and that's for everybody because they don't know the survivor benefits. I had a client died last fall, and she went into the Social Security, and her benefit check was $2,550 a month, and his was $2,500, and she went to claim. Yours is higher. You take the higher of the two. Well, that's usually the rule, but not for survivors. I mean, it is. So if they gave her hers, they turned hers on for $2,550, so you get $50 more a month. And I go, whoa, you're giving that back. You got 1 year to do a mulligan. You got 1 year if you take it wrong. You got 12 months to fix it and put it back in the system and say, never mind, like you never claimed, and have it. So I told her, I said, you're going to claim his at $2,500. You're only 67. Yours will grow 8% a year till 70. Then you turn yours on at 70, and it's going to be like almost $3,000 instead of the $2,550.
Right.
So, and she was told by Social Security office to claim hers for $50 more, instead of delaying hers and taking his $50 less, and then hers would keep growing.
So within a year, she paid that money back, or
2 months? Yeah, she
2 months.
She just gave it back because I caught her right after she did it, and went to the office, got misinformation. So so survivors can take theirs. Somebody dies, you can claim survivor benefits as early as 60 on your spouse that passed away, and let your benefit keep growing until 70.
Okay.
Or turn it on anytime after that. So there's a lot of change. That's why we say Social Security, Medicare planning, start at 60, get kind of used to where things are, projections, for your benefits, how that's going to, help your retirement, with your other retirement sources that you save through work. Pensions are more rare now, but 401ks, 457s, 403bs, your IRAs, your Roth IRAs, simples, things like that. So just looking at all your assets and saying, okay, which bucket of money are we going to access first? Can we take other money out of our other sources and let that Social Security? Because the guaranteed income for life, for two of you, and it's growing. If you let it grow, it grows 8% guaranteed a year until it maxes out at 70. So if you're healthy, longevity in the family, if you can wait to take the Social Security, go ahead. I still see a lot of people that I say, let's take it early because health problems, things like that.
Right. Yeah. Yeah.
You want to get the money out of the system.
Right. Exactly.
Yeah.
All right. Well, thank you, Mike. I appreciate it. Where can somebody find you?
Well, the Integrated Financial Concepts is here in Park Ridge, Illinois, and it's just www.ifcplanners.com.
All right.
Yeah.
Thank you very much for joining us today.
Thank you, sir.
I appreciate it. And that's it for All About Nothing.